Welcome, everyone, once again to the Sports Wrap with Michael Kravetz. This is the third episode, and I know the second episode hasn't been up yet, having some problems uploading the episode, so hopefully these two will be uploaded around the same time by tomorrow. Gonna record this in two parts today. Try and make it a little easier for the listeners out there. And I'm going to start off today's show by talking about Penn State. The punishment was given to Penn State last Saturday, I believe. And Penn State received a 4-year bowl ban and also 4-year ban from basically winning the Big Ten. So for some reason they end up leading the Big Ten by the end of the year. The team in second place will win the Big Ten championship, and Penn State won't have a chance to compete in the Big Ten title game. Penn State was also fined a total of about $73 million, and scholarships are being reduced to 15 instead of 25. So the question is, did Penn State get off easily? Was the punishment too harsh, or was it just the right amount? Personally, I think it was right. A 4-year bowl ban is pretty heavy, and when I first heard that, I was like, wow, 4 years. That's pretty much what the incoming freshmen, they're not going to get a chance to compete in a bowl game. But when you think about what everything happened and all the cover-ups, I think it was fair. And getting fined that amount of money, too, that just goes to show you that the NCAA is not taking anything lightly here, and what they say is the final word in all of this. Also, they are waiving the transfer clause for any of the Penn State players. Pretty much it's open market. They can transfer to any school they want to, and they will be able to play this upcoming year. So, Illinois, for example, a lot of their coaches a couple days ago went to the Penn State campus to kind of open recruit. A lot of the Penn State players, though, held a meeting yesterday, at least 30 of them, saying that they're committed to this university and they're going to play as hard as they can for them. So I commend all the players for doing that. A lot of people are saying that they should have got the death penalty, meaning no football for a year. In a way, I'm kind of happier with the punishment that they have now, because at least fans will still be able to go to the games and stuff. The question becomes, will the fans travel as they once did for Penn State, to Michigan, Michigan State, Ohio State? I don't know. I'm not a huge Penn State fan. I'm Pitt all the way. I did follow Penn State, though, closely in football. And personally, I think Bill O'Brien, I know a lot of people are saying that he's going to end up leaving eventually. I think he's going to be in there for the long haul. Because if Penn State ends up coming out of this 4 years, like 3 out of the 4 years with a winning record, they're going to say he did one hell of a job. I think, though, in the Big Ten, especially since it's been probably one of the best football conferences as of late, I think they're going to struggle because they're not going to have the best talent that they would have normally. If they're lucky, within the next 4 years, when they have the ban on them, they may be in the top half of the division, but I don't see it, because I think Michigan State's going to be there for the long haul. Michigan, Ohio State, Wisconsin, even Northwestern, I believe, is still going to be ahead of them. So I don't see anything really coming out of these 4 years as positive, according to the football performance on the field. Also, the statue was taken down. The Joe Paterno statue was taken down in front of the Penn State campus, and that was probably the best decision as well, because you should have a clean slate. You shouldn't have a statue honoring a man who ultimately did nothing. He covered, well, I guess he didn't cover it up. He didn't have the courage enough to stand up and tell the right people about what Sandusky was doing. The one thing I think, though, that Penn State should do, I think Bill O'Brien, he still has a few coaches that were on the Penn State staff the past few years. I think they should be rid of, because I think everything should be an entire clean slate for this program. But I mean, it's his decision, it's his prerogative. He's going to keep who he thinks will be best for running his football team. Now let's move on to the Steelers. Training camp officially started yesterday. And still, the only player not to report to camp is Mike Wallace. He still has not signed the tender, the 1-year, $2.7 million contract. And Art Rooney II yesterday said the contract negotiations are going to stop for now. So pretty much, Wallace has to sign this contract, because if he does not sign, I don't know if he's going to want to play. And there were some sound bites from Keenan Lewis, who's close friends with Wallace, and he was saying that Wallace is a football guy. He wants to play football. Well, if Wallace wants to play football, then he's going to sign this within the next week, because I don't think it's going to be good for him if he misses at least 2 or 3 weeks of training camp time, and if he misses a couple preseason games. They have a new offense. It is a new playbook with Todd Haley. I'm sure it's not all that different, but there's going to be many things that are going to look foreign to Wallace. So he has to sign as soon as possible so he can grasp everything that Todd Haley is trying to do with this offense. He is the number 1 receiver for the Steelers. He has to play with them this year. What he needs to think is that, okay, I got to sign this contract, and then if I perform and play on the field during the season, there will be negotiations. He should just realize, this is the only thing on my mind, this 1 year. Got to play well, and then they're going to negotiate with me to keep me here for the long haul. Because Art Rooney II said they like Mike Wallace. They think he is a Steeler-type player. He is a receiver that can improve. He's improved since he got drafted in 2009. Because if Wallace, for some ungodly sake and reason, does not decide to sign and sits out this entire year, the Steelers are going to be kind of in trouble at wide receiver, because they do have Antonio Brown, Emmanuel Sanders, Jericho Cotchery, and then the draft pick this year. But they'd have to go find, and they, of course, Heath Miller. They'd have to find someone, because I think Antonio Brown is capable of filling in at number 1, but I don't think he's capable of filling in number 1 the entire season. So Mike Wallace, I'm a huge fan of yours. I love the way you play the game. Don't be stupid, and please don't do another Mark Appel and not sign a contract. Please sign and get the training camp as soon as possible so you can get all your practice in and you're ready for the season. Because I know Wallace is capable of putting up another 1,000-yard receiving season. He could get over 1,500 yards receiving. He's a deep threat. The only thing that he can do to make himself a more complete receiver is to work, on his slant routes, getting shorter passes, and then running for extra yardage. He doesn't have to go deep all the time. So hopefully he can sign and will work on that this year to make himself a better receiver. Now let's jump into baseball, where the majority of this show is going to be remaining me talking about. I'm going to talk about the rest of the MLB. A lot of trades, well, not a lot, but a few trades, significant trades, have happened in the past week. Back on July 20th, the Blue Jays and the Astros decided to complete a 10-player trade. The Blue Jays received Matt Carpenter. Matt Carpenter. My mistake. David Carpenter. Sorry about that. Brandon Lyon and Jay Happ. And the Astros received Francisco Cordero, Ben Francisco, Joe Musgrove, Asher Kowski, David Rollins, and Carlos Perez. Now, Astros pretty much got, a lot of young players got a good reliever in Francisco Cordero, but they're the worst team in baseball right now, 30 games under 500. Blue Jays, of course, are playing in probably the toughest division in baseball. I don't know if they're going to make it in the playoffs this year, but they did get a good pitcher in Jay Happ and a good reliever in Brandon Line. I think the trade was good for both teams in the long run. And on the July 23rd, the Tigers and the Marlins decided to make a swap. The Tigers received pitcher Anibal Sanchez and second Omar Infante, while the Marlins got Jacob Turner, Rob Brantley, and Brian Flynn. The Marlins right now are in a fire sale because they bought a lot of players over the offseason. Their payroll was over $100 million this year, had the new stadium, had the new manager. They thought they were going to go all in and compete for the division and even for a World Series ultimately this year. 9 games under 500, that's not the case. They're playing pretty bad baseball, and it's just not good for Miami. Detroit got a great pitcher, a great second baseman. They've had problems defensively at second base this year, and right now they're tied for first with the White Sox, so I think the addition of Anibal Sanchez and Omar Infante are going to really help this team, I think, kind of maintain first place and win the division in the AL Central this year. Also on that same day, in a surprise that caught my eye immediately, was the Seattle Mariners traded longtime outfielder Ichiro Suzuki to the New York Yankees in exchange for DJ Mitchell and Danny Farquhar. Mariners got a couple good prospects. They're kind of low end. Danny Farquhar is in single A, DJ Mitchell way. They're building for the future pretty much. Ichiro wanted this trade to happen because he requested a trade because he wanted Seattle to start building for the future. Because, I mean, the Mariners probably weren't going to be competitive this year or next year, so Ichiro is saying that, listen, trade me now, I won't get mad. And they traded him to the Yankees, who are possible contenders for the World Series because they're going to make the playoffs easily. So I'm happy for Ichiro because he hasn't made the playoffs since his first couple years with the Mariners. He's a guy that I think just to win a World Series, he is a future Hall of Famer, and I think the trade has really worked out for both teams. And on July 24th, the Pittsburgh Pirates decided to make a first deal. They sent Rudy Owens, Colton Kane, and Robbie Grossman to the Houston Astros in exchange for left-handed pitcher Wandy Rodriguez. I think this is a great move for the Pirates because they got a left-handed pitcher who gives a lot of innings. His ERA, 3.79 right now. Since 2008, though, his ERA has been 3.45. That's the third best among left-handers in the National League. He's going to sign through next year as well with a player option for 2014. And he steps into that rotation. That's going to be McDonald, Burnett, Rodriguez, your top three. So I think it's a good move for both teams. And I know I liked Rudy Owens. I thought he would have been a good pitcher for the Pirates, but you're going to have to trade your prospects sometimes, and that's what Neil Huntington did. And they got a good pitcher. He's a veteran. He's 33 years old, and I think he's going to help this team in the long run. And probably the biggest trade of the year so far occurred 2 days ago when the Dodgers sent Nathan Eovaldi and Scott McGough to the Miami Marlins for Randy Choate and Hanley Ramirez. So Miami pretty much, it's fire sale right now. Right, Hanley Ramirez, their premier player for the past 3 or 4 years because he wasn't performing well with them. Sent him to the Los Angeles Dodgers, where Ramirez is going to probably see more time at his original position at shortstop. And he thinks this change of scenery is going to help him a lot. His first game was yesterday against the Cardinals. When he arrived in the clubhouse, he looked enthused, he looked energetic, he looked excited, and pretty much it's like a new lease on life for him because he was not happy in Miami. He was struggling, and the Dodgers ballpark is a better hitting ballpark than the Marlins. So it looks like he's probably going to bring more stability to that Dodgers lineup with Kemp hitting at 3, Ethier at 4, and then Ramirez is 5. They will be a force to reckon with, and I eventually do see them passing the Giants to win the NL West division. And, Miami, they got the couple good right-handed pitchers. They're only 22 years old, so they're young. They have a chance to develop. Marlins, I mean, their Marlins came in thinking they'd be winners, and right now they're not playing well at all, so they got to trade. I mean, I know the fans for the Marlins, I know if I was a fan there, I'd be upset, but you got to say, hey, Hanley Ramirez isn't doing well with us, and this is the best time to trade him to get some good prospects in return. You have to do it, and that's what they did. So that'll finish off the first half of the show, and in the second half, we're going to be talking about the Pirates.